Robbie Williams Rewind.
Welcome to Robbie Williams Rewind. We are the champions. I'm Matt.
And I'm Lucy.
And along with help from special guests, we take you on an in-depth rewind through the solo career of multi-award-winning singer, songwriter and entertainer Robbie Williams.
In this episode, we're thrilled to welcome a trio of brothers who have written extensively with Robbie for over 20 years. They rarely give interviews about their work with Rob, especially not all three together, which makes the fact they've agreed to speak with us very exciting.
Yes.
Robbie referred to two of them as like finding two Pharrell Williams in Stoke-on-Trent. You might know them as Soul Mekanik or Central Midfield. They're credited with co-writing nearly 40 songs between them in Robbie's back catalogue, including Rock DJ, Rudebox, Soul Transmission, Soda Pop and Rudolph. We are, of course, talking about the brothers Kelvin Andrews, Rich Scott and Danny Spencer, otherwise known as Danny Mekanik.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thanks.
Hi.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
What a treat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
man.
is. And I really appreciate you all coming together because I know how busy you must be and all the projects and things that you've got going on. So thank you for joining.
Well, this doesn't happen a lot, does it? Does it, lads?
No?
Not really. No.
The three of you together? No?
No.
We speak to each other individually, but not very rarely a three-way. It's quite weird, yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, we'll do our best to facilitate. So before we start, we're going to give our listeners some background on your careers outside of Rob. So Danny, Kelvin and Rich were born into a musical family. Their dad, Tony Kaye, was a successful recording artist working under various names who served as a band leader for the legendary Sandy Shaw. It wasn't unusual for the boys to wake up as children to find famous soul singers had spent the night on their couch.
Danny started out as a sound engineer in 1986. Danny and Rich had their first top 100 hit in 1988 with the song Ride the Rhythm, Acid Not Placid in a group called This Ain't Chicago, along with Carl Johns. In 1990, Danny had a number 3 hit in the UK with a cover of the Beatles' Strawberry Fields Forever, which he'd created in their parents' garage with the group Candy Flip. It saw him appear on Top of the Pops and the cover of Smash Hits. And I definitely have it on 7-inch in the loft. And I'm sure it was played at my 13th birthday party.
Oh, don't.
Kelvin, meanwhile, was a resident DJ at Stoke-on-Trent nightclub Golden. Kelvin and Danny together became Sure Is Pure, which saw them remix for artists like Aretha Franklin, Sister Sledge, the Doobie Brothers, Sly and the Family Stone, and Marvin Gaye. At the peak of their Sure Is Pure period, they set up their own farm label and created another slew of club hits. This culminated in the global chart success of Blue Boys' Remember Me, which they turned from a B-side that most people had ignored into an anthem.
In 2000, Kelvin and Danny became part of Sound 5, which comprised 5 friends, and released an album called No Illicit Dancing, including the track Surface Noise, with vocals by Robbie under the pseudonym Tipsy McStagger.
Danny and Kelvin realised it was easiest working as duo, so became Soul Mekanik, pretending that they were 2 unknown producers from Luxembourg called Lukewarm and Roland Bass, and wrote their own album, 81. In about 2010, they created Wonk Parties, as record companies had described their music as wonky pop. They both still DJ and hold Wonk Parties internationally.
All true.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Love the pseudonyms.
Yeah.
The unknown producers. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Rich is a self-taught multi-instrumentalist who spent many years as a session musician, writing songs and running his own studio. As a teen, he was in a funk band alongside his drummer friend, Scott Ralph, who was only 11. They stayed in touch and after a 20-year break, came back together to create Daft Dog Productions. Rich wanted to develop the songwriting that he had been doing with Soul Mekanik, and Scott was the perfect partner. Together, they've worked on lots of songs with Rob, many with Danny and Kelvin too. Rich now runs Dead Good Productions, while Scott has his own studio too.
So how do we do, lads?
Right. Well,
I thought I mean, a lot of it was about them, and I was thinking, actually, they're quite good, aren't they? These pair.
We saved the best till last.
They're all right.
The good stuff that wasn't right, we're not going to deny. So
Good. So just to give you a little bit of context about us and the podcast, we've been Robbie super fans since the start of his solo career. I was a Take That fan. Robbie was always my favourite. We've seen him all over the world, spoken to him on Instagram Live, met him a few times, and he refers to us as the champions, of course. And he did surprise us on a pilot TV show recently, where he said that he was aware of the podcast and thanked us for doing it.
oh,
So that was nice. Yeah.
Our podcast covers Robbie's music, album by album, B-side by B-side, tour by tour, and we look at our favourite lyrics and memories of the past 25 years. We have guest fans and special guests joining us for each episode who join in the commentary and also talk about their work and their love for Robbie and their best memories. And at the moment, we've recorded 25 episodes. We're right the way up to the Swings Both Ways album. And we've even created a Robbie hurdle. And a lot of our listeners are playing on that. So they get a little snippet of Robbie every day. So you could say that we know Robbie quite well.
Well, his work, anyway.
His work.
So there you go. That's the background.
brilliant.
Excellent.
So, first question. I wondered whether you all have the same music taste growing up, because you seem to have quite different.
Yeah, I nicked their music taste because
Right.
I'm the youngest brother. So basically, they just played me stuff, and I was into it because my brothers were into it. It was as simple as that, you know. Luckily, they did have good taste in music, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't lumbered with bad taste that to work through. So yeah, they did do me a favour.
I was going to say, I think that the biggest influence would be Dad. So he'd played us all the same stuff. We would have grown up listening to. So I think essentially we do have the same musical taste, and we've kind of just branched off to our own little devices to a certain degree. Would you say?
I would say Danny's more militant these days. It's like certainly if it's house music, he's happy. He doesn't need anything else. Whereas my taste is quite broad, and Richard's is as well. I mean, mine goes into weird little corners that people don't really understand. But I like everything from classical to strange ambient records to old 30s and 40s things and swing music as well. I would say Rich was more of a classicist. He was more like he likes the classic sound of things. And I think we're all, you know, we all cross-pollinate.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so did you mentioned your dad there, did your parents encourage you to get into music when you were younger, or were they wary about it already being in the industry?
Well, he put us off.
Yeah.
He said, stay away from the music industry.
Right.
It's full of horrible people. So
Yeah.
the first thing we did was get involved with the music industry. Not through any kind of rebellion,
Yeah.
but purely because we love music and we had ideas and wanted to develop them, you know.
I can say my personal thing is exactly like that. But just one thing I remember, I said to him, I think I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be a singer, I didn't know. So at one point I said, I want to write songs, I want to sing. And he went, okay, sing then. And he'd heard me sing before, don't get me wrong, but it was just that moment. And he said, I sang, and he went, it's all right. He was genuinely trying to put us off. And he knew when she got out there, you would probably be, there'd be lots of people who would say exactly that. It's all right. So you've got to be better than all right, as we know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important to point out our dad was a really good musician and a really great vocalist. He was outstanding, and so the standard was really high.
Right.
So we had to live up to that. I still don't think any of us can sing quite as good as he does, but Rich gets closest. Yeah,
close.
Oh.
yeah.
Close, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine your early days in the house, it must have just been full of music, different styles, different instruments being played. Yeah, was it really like that?
It was chaos. We were all obsessed with, especially black music, American funk and soul.
Yeah.
That was our big thing, really. My dad got us into Sinatra, so we were kind of ready for the swing thing as well. We were all, we weren't like, it wasn't like something we had to get into. We were tuned into that.
Yeah.
But I think it's more the American side of things was that our biggest influence. When we were growing up, when my dad stopped being a musician, he worked for a company that used to bring a lot of the Black American acts over to the UK. So we had promo copies of really like things like Grover Washington Jr. and New York City, things that wasn't really the mainstream. We were lucky enough to hear this great music. It was normal. But then you go to school and tell your friends, and they'd heard of none of them.
Yeah,
we were like, okay, we'll go back to the drawing board.
Absolutely. It was always the oddness, I think, and even when you found, like Danny was saying earlier, when he was like, because I did the same thing, you follow your big brother with what he's into, and he was kind of led into this connection to the Grover Washington thing, and there was friends at school that were into the slightly odder music as well. Pop music in the late 70s, early 80s was my favorite period. It was almost experimental compared to today. Everything's kind of like squeaky clean and polished up to the max, and there's no cracks. But like in the late 70s, early 80s, you had the influence of punk had happened. You'd had the soul thing in the early 70s. Disco had happened. Yeah. So that period, sort of 79 to 83, before electro happened, and that's another story. But it was so fertile. And Top of the Pops on a Thursday was incredible. You were listening to Soft Cell. You were listening to Light of the World, British soul acts, and I think Britain was an amazing place to grow up. I produce podcasts myself, and my favorite thing at the moment is to talk about social history, about growing up, and getting into clothes and music and the different tribes around you. And it really was an amazing time to grow up. Maybe there's a nostalgic element to that thinking, but I think that influence of Top of the Pops was a big thing for us, like it was for any kid growing up, I think. And I think definitely Rich and Danny grew up more than me thinking I want to be on Top of the Pops. I was I want to be the cool guy at the back.
I only said I was going to be on Top of the Pops to piss me careers teacher off. It's one of them things. It's like, be careful what you wish for, isn't it? It's I just said like I said, sir, none of this applies. So I'm going to be a pop star.
And you were right.
and it kind of happened, and it was a bit weird. Yeah, it was like, but yeah, I mean, I was at that time I was concentrating on making house music, so that was a real bad interruption for me. That was as far as what I'd got in my mind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
it was like all of a sudden I was singing pop songs, and it was like this wasn't part of the plan.
Wow, so an unexpected rise to fame then for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. I didn't do it on purpose. I definitely didn't go, right, I'm going to do this on purpose. I mean, because, it just didn't happen like that.
No.
Yeah.
I think Strawberry Fields Forever was meant to be a B-side, though, wasn't it?
It was done as a B-side, and it was like a bonus track. You know what I mean? It was because it just, I couldn't imagine that being a single. You know what I mean?
I could.
But it was actually the DJs that flipped it over, though, wasn't it? It was we mailed the record out, and the DJ said, "You've got to flip this over. You've got to put this on the A side."
Ah, right. Okay.
And so when we released it on the Monday, and that was like about 2 days after we released it, we got a phone call from the BBC saying, "Do you want to do Top of the Pops?" I was like, "You what? That's weird."
Wow, it was that quick.
Yeah, it was super quick.
It felt like that, yeah.
Definitely like that, yeah. I remember. Just a quick segue, but I've not really talked to Danny about this. But when the thing came through, because I did BVs on it down in Derby, Nottingham, where it was recorded, and so it felt like it was that kind of quick thing to get to Top of the Pops, broadcast on Thursday, but recorded on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
And on the Sunday, on the Monday, we had to go into some gym somewhere, and we stood there trying to work out what we were going to do on the television with a broom handle. Was a
Yeah.
Remember that? It was crazy.
I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was going to try and avoid the camera.
Yeah, you had some sort of backing dancers with sort of tambourines.
That was me. And
I did wonder if it was you.
Yeah. It was a thin version of me.
Because there wasn't really a close up of your face. I couldn't really tell.
Well, that's always a good thing.
Well, we certainly love Top of the Pops. You know, you mentioned about, it was, you had to watch Top of the Pops. I mean, you had to watch it live as well back in those days. And then you had to go to school or work and talk about it the next day. And wow, did you see that? You know, it was, absolutely just the place to be.
We used to go to a club called a discotheque called The Place, which was like a local disco for us. And on Thursday nights, which was one of the nights they used to do for the under-18s, they'd actually have a big screen downstairs with Top of the Pops on.
Oh, wow.
And so the music would stop and they'd have Top of the Pops on for a bit. And that's how important it was, you know.
We've been rewatching all of them recently, so every time it's on, we record it, and we're dipping back into it.
Love
So yeah.
Well, I watched a bit of it recently. I think just after Top of the Pops in 1990, with going on there with Danny and stuff. I think 1992 I was watching. I thought, I don't remember any of this music. I don't know what happened. I really don't remember anything at all.
I remember it. Yeah, just moving on to Robbie. I was just wondering who was the first one to get to know him and meet him.
Kelvin was.
It was Kelvin. Yeah, I thought it was.
I disagree, but there we go.
No, I think he might have been Rich.
It might have been. I was busy doing stuff at the time, wasn't I? So I don't know how that happened.
I remember it. See if you see the same. So we were doing a gig up at the Bridge Street Arts Centre, which was then I think known as the Frog Inn. So my band Max the Sax were doing a gig, one of the early gigs we did. There was a dressing room upstairs, and you were DJing that night.
Was I?
You were the warm up act. And Danny was just a member of the audience. Danny came up for moral support because I think it was about the third gig or the second gig. And Rob turned up at that gig and came up to Danny, so if he remembers this, and said, I've got all your records, I followed your career. And he just joined Take That at that point.
Right.
Any hits.
I do remember that now, actually. That's weird.
And that's how it started. So actually, he followed Danny's career, and it was obviously a bit of an influence to try and. That's definitely how I remember it. And
right.
It's a good memory.
Rob would tell us that when he saw Candy Flip on Top of the Pops and realised we were literally like 300 yards down the road from where him, and he something clicked in his head and went, oh, it's just down the road, that is. And in his head, he thought, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Well,
he does tell it like that.
When he was little, he said he used to watch me breakdancing with his mum when he was like a little toddler. So, he says, I remember. He says, did you used to breakdance down in Tunstall sometimes? I said, yeah. And he said, I remember you.
So you've been inspiring him for a very long time, even before the music.
It looks that way, doesn't it? Don't do what I do, Rob. Just don't do what I do.
And he told me he used to come and see me DJ, and he remembered me because I had leather trousers on and a feather boa.
Was that in Golden or somewhere else?
No, I used to play. I think he used to come to. I think he may have been to Golden when I was there, but I think he used to come regularly to a bar in town, which I did on a Sunday.
Yeah,
Quenches.
And I think he came along.
Quenches, yeah.
Yeah, no. This is after Quenches. He would have been well too young to get into Quenches. I'm 10 years old. I'm the eldest. I'm 10 years older than Rob, so that's how I gauge it.
Yeah.
He used to come and see me. I mean, I never knew him then, but he used to come and see me play.
Yeah.
So further to just to end that story, if you like, throughout the when Take That were becoming successful, literally we're having hits. He then would still come and see Max Sax down in the local bar in Stoke, local music venue, and he'd bring Mark Owen with him and various members of Take That on various occasions. My wife remembers more than I do because Fancy more going at the time. So I said, I don't remember him being there, but yeah. So he was coming all the time. And then he invited us all to take that gig in Manchester. We sat with all the families, which was kind of strange. Went back to the bar after a party, and he gave us all the name check on stage, that's way back in the right in the middle of Take That thing. So
yeah. Amazing.
How did that story kind of evolve into you guys actually working and writing and,
Because it was Kelvin first, isn't it?
Yeah, I there was a time when we were like, flipping heck, that's Rob, who's on the telly all the time. And Take That were just stratospheric. They were massive. It was kind of like, oh, flipping heck, young Rob, he's a superstar, And then we were doing the Sound 5 record, and I got a phone call. Hiya, Kelv, it's Rob. And I'm like, hi, mate, how are you? Can you come up to my house? I want to play some music. And these are the first demos of his solo stuff.
Yeah.
He wanted my thoughts, So I went up to his mum's house in Betley, and we actually no, it was in Newcastle when she was living
in the
Westlands, yeah. And there were kids camping outside. It was madness, but you'd have to look through the curtain and see if anyone was there. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like superstardom, I remember the Bay City Rollers doing the same. It was quite weird. So I sat down and he played me some demos he'd been doing, and I liked what I heard, and I was like, yeah, this is great, because I think the fallout had happened at that point. I think he'd officially left, although I wasn't really following it. He'd officially left Take That, and he was looking to do some solo stuff. So, and then he said, can I come up to the studio? So he came up to the studio on the farm where Danny was in Eccleshall, and he kind of just hung out for a while. And we did some live jamming with the band in the porter cabin, and he came and did some vocals, and it was just like hanging out, it was great. Yeah, it was just kind of the start of him, and then you think the first time he did it was like, oh, flipping out, that was kind of strange. We were at the studio, and the phone rang one day, and that keyboard player who's no longer with us, God rest his soul, answered the phone, and he said, hello. And he said, can I speak to Rob, please? He went, yeah, who's calling? He went, it's Elton. So he went, Rob, it's Elton. It's just like as if it's not inside. We were all going flipping heck, and it was Elton John. How he got the number for the studio, I do not know, but he did. And I remember Rob picking the phone and going, hi, mate, you all right? It's like, this is so weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very strange, but yeah, and then there was a kind of bit of a gap, and he got back in touch, and he said, do you and Danny do you want to come down to London and write some stuff with us, with me and Guy? And we were like, yeah, okay, yeah, cool, not knowing what would become of it, Well,
in the meantime, he'd been up at the studio, and then I'd been working on a track that was based on the Barry White groove from Ecstasy. Yeah. And I was working it. He's going, I like that. And when he spoke to you, he said, hey, can you bring that Barry White track down with you as well?
Yeah. Because we were doing something with that. It was going to be part of our live thing, wasn't it?
It was going to be like a kind of a Daft Punky thing that we were working on. It's like slow, groovy house thing based on that. But he heard it and had other plans.
Rock DJ.
Yeah.
So that was kind of that brought us to the beginning of us working with him in terms of actually writing songs and stuff.
Can I just say I still got the demo of that, by the way?
Have you?
Right. Wow.
DJ.
Amazing.
I keep everything.
Sure. Yeah. Wow, so Rob really was finding his feet and testing his solo kind of vibe with you guys in the early days before he kind of started in the mainstream with Guy, and yeah.
Yeah, he'd had a couple of hits. I think Angels had happened when
Oh, right.
he wanted to back it up, didn't he?
No, I think. Well, no, that was that writing session.
Yeah.
But I think when he was up at the farm singing on stuff, I think there's a little bit of a confusion there. I think when he was at the farm, I don't think he'd done. I don't think he'd done the George Michael. He'd done Freedom at that point, did he?
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't know what Rob thinks about that particular thing, because I was a big George Michael fan, and it's like anyone does a cover of something that you really love, you kind of go, oh no, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You should be doing that,
Well, the record company told him to cover it.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that. But, so he was taking advice, I suppose.
Dad's record company for you.
Don't listen to record companies.
They don't know.
Most definitely not. That it was. I just heard a story the other day when Martin Kemp was talking about George Michael, and George Michael played in the demo or the sort of recording of "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go," and he was like, he played it to him. He was like, "Yeah, great," and he went away and he told Shirley, his missus, that it's all over for Wham. That's it. It's done. It was so unbelievably pop. They've made like funky pop records before, but then it was all over. But it just goes to show, doesn't it? You don't know.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I was so itching to ask Steve Sidwell about because he's worked with George before he was even in Wham from the really, really early days. And he just kind of dropped it into the conversation. And I was like, we've really got to talk about Robbie. But I wanted to ask him all about that, but maybe another time.
So whose idea was it to sing on the Sound 5 track?
It was his idea.
It was his?
It was his idea,
Yeah. He goes, can I sing on that? That's kind of how it's always been with Rob, hasn't it? It's like he's kind of he's asked us to get involved with the stuff he's doing, or he's asked to get involved with what we're doing.
Yeah,
it's always been kind of like that, hasn't it?
It makes a lot of sense actually, Danny, and I think that we've been researching you guys and listening to a lot of your stuff and looking at interviews and things that you've done. And obviously I would say you're experimental. You push the boundaries, all three of you, I think. And I think there's that side to Rob as well that has always, from what I'm hearing from you, has always been there.
Yeah.
From the start, but then he sort of went into the machine for a bit, and obviously he does great pop records, no doubting it. We're biased because we're fans, but he's always got that experimental need, to try something different. And I really love that about him, actually. And I know sometimes the critics kind of get it wrong and they're like, oh, what's he doing now, doing something else. I'm thinking, actually, it's an innovator. He's trying different stuff out, and I think your influence is definitely, I can see it there,
I think when you're a pop star or you're in that position, it's really hard. It's almost like the public and the machine behind you doesn't allow you to be as experimental as you would be. Yeah. So it kind of, in a way, it stifles the artist in somebody that does, It's like, it shouldn't be criticized for doing something different. That's like, go on, that it was a great idea to sort of do something different. I mean, we had so much fun making Rudebox, didn't we? I mean, that was really good fun. And that was, at that time, that was Rob doing what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we had so much fun in the studio with Kelv. It was good.
Yeah, it was incredible. There's probably about 200 demos knocking about, of things that didn't even make it any further, because we were just, every day we'd be jamming 2 or 3 different ideas. Yeah. Some of it was downright strange, I was like, yeah, this is great, but obviously, management and record company have got other ideas, and they're looking at it and going, right, we need that big ballad or we need that big hit, and that's totally understandable. That's the way, to maintain an artist like Rob, you kind of have to do that. Yeah. But when Rob's having fun, it's like, yeah, let's keep going, and.
Calv, do you think at any point with Robbie's people we were sort of like keep Robbie away from them?
Quite possibly, yeah. But Rob was having so much fun. We were having so much fun. It's like, why would you change that? And every now and again, we'd come up with a little bit of pop that would cross over onto the album. Sometimes even be a single, and you're like, okay, that's because we were allowed to run free and do these things.
Yes.
And eventually something would come out that would go, okay, that we can hear that.
Like Me was a perfect
Yeah.
I mean, that was just Me started with the sample, and we were just like jamming with it, and this is great. And Rob's he's very prolific with his lyrics. He's a really good lyric writer. He's got really interesting ideas, and he's got a lateral brain which comes up with things that you think, where's he come up with that from? And it's amazing to see him work. He's not just somebody who's going, okay, let's put any old lyrics on that. Even on some of his most famous songs, his lyrics they've got depth.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just churning them out, and got massive respect for him for that. He doesn't take the easy routes at all.
I also think, as perhaps more of an observer during some of that period, not all of it, of course, that and my experience as well further on, he would get a bad rap, I think, for being, Robbie Williams. I take that, there you go, figurehead, just dances in front, whatever. He brings so much to the table, not just lyrically. Whenever you're writing anything, when you're being creative, especially there's a few of you need reassurance of what you just come up with is a good idea. And he won't just say yes, he'll say, also, I think sometimes it's nice to say no to him as well, because I think sometimes maybe people don't say no to him enough. Yeah. And I think we've always been honest with him. I think that's the thing. I said to him once, the exact words, I said, can I just be honest with you? And he went, no room for honesty in here. And I said, I don't think it's good enough. And he went, and I think it was refreshing. I think everybody just kind of goes along with it, because of who he is. But, for me, he's got my best foot forward is his best foot forward. I need it to be as good as it can be. So there's no good just going, yeah, okay, we'll run with that.
Well, we're on the same team, aren't we? We're trying to make something good, and we're just looking at it from a different perspective. And that's the thing about working as a team, is one of you is going to see things that the other one isn't. And, and that's kind of what we did. It was like, we could be honest in that, when we've and you can also see by our faces if we don't like something. We can't pretend. It's like music does stuff to you. So when it's not good, you go,
yeah, you do that, Dan.
Yeah.
I do that.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
And then Kelvin, also on that early album, you co-wrote Love Calling Earth and Knutsford City Limits. Just interested in why you wrote a song about Knutsford. None of you come from Knutsford.
That's really raw, but because once we like the idea of things that make us laugh. There's like because Knutsford City Limits is just like, it's just a giggle, and it's like, okay, let's do that. And Love Calling Earth is we sometimes give Rob a song which we've written, and he'll go, that's great, and he won't change much. We'll change a bit, but a lot of the time he'll revisit it and make it his own. And I think that's important. You've got to sing something you believe in. So that's, sometimes you've got to give that song up. That's part of it, really.
Right.
Many times there's been a case of another co-write comes in and change a lyric. We won't agree with it. We're like that, but you kind of got to let it go. It's like once you've started, you got to let it go.
I think the best example of that, and it was in his own words, Rob after said, was Morning Sun.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Don Black.
Don Black.
Don Black. Yeah.
One of the greatest lyricists of all time.
Oscar winning.
You know what I mean? And he wrote this thing, and we were like, what? What's he doing?
And before that, me and Scott just presented the song to you and Danny, and then that was that's how we started the ball rolling again with that album. And we've done a load of lyrics, and there were lyrics we weren't. I don't think we'd never been precious about them. Then Rob started to do his own thing. Started talking about I liked it because it was like kind of a sweet melody, and he was adding these lyrics that were kind of about death and stuff. And I was thinking, wow, that's just blew my mind. And then when Don Black did his thing, it kind of straightened it up, even in a worse way than we'd ever done it. You know, it was too. And I remember him talking on Channel 4 after talking to Steve, what was his name, interviewed on Channel 4, and he said, I changed it, but I shouldn't really changed it. Really, I think he regretted doing it. You know, in his own words. So that was nice to know because
yeah. I mean, Don Black wrote "On Days Like These." You know? I mean, what's one of the greatest songs ever? You know, so I'm like, okay,
yeah, just go with it.
It's kind of weird, you know.
You're kind of not going to say no, but then we end up being, as I just said, the people who I've just criticised, which are, you should go, I know you're Don Black, but that's crap.
We were never sat down in that situation, though, were we? With that writing, it was all very remote. Right. Your bit was done, and then it sort of got developed away from you, didn't it? You know,
right?
Yeah.
Well, I think going back to when we were doing the demos, though, we were in LA, and when he started to write those kind of death things about on it, I remember writing them. He sat there on the bed, and so it was when it was already done, though. It was taken then. Other people, and maybe the other people think, well, this is good. I better get in on this. You know, I don't know. I don't really know what the situation is, but changing it wasn't for the better. That's what I'm going to say, really, more than anything else.
No, and also at least Rich and Scott can write good enough lyrics for anything, you know, and Rob certainly can, and so,
you can.
Yeah, I mean, I can too, but it's not for me to say. But what I'm trying to point out is that you got to have that conviction, that confidence. You can't think, like Don Black's here. I don't know. These words that drop in the right place and sound good, you know, particularly with lyrics, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I like Morning Sun as it is, so.
You do? Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
We never heard it how it was, though, did we?
No.
So
I heard it back recently, and I could live with the changed lyrics much easier now, but maybe that's just getting older.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
If you'd not heard the original demo, you would have.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I don't. But anyway, it's near enough for jazz, as I used to say.
Yeah.
Cool.
And he's talked about making a Rudebox 2. Do you think that will ever happen?
That'd be fun.
I'd love that.
I'd like that too. That'd be really good fun.
Yeah, with the hindsight we've got as well, it'd be like, okay, you know, that was just looking back. That was such a fun time, and I think.
You know, when the backlash happened for it, it was really mad because Rob was really just worried about what the effect it'd have on us.
Yeah.
Wasn't he? He was just really concerned that he was used to it, but the stick that he got for that record, he was like, the lads. And it was like, we're all right, don't worry about that. We know how this stuff works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, when Victoria Newton called it the worst record ever, right? I knew it wasn't the worst record ever. No. You know, I mean, I've heard much worse records than that.
Yes. I love it.
We love it, absolutely. We're in the Rudolph fan clubs, and I think we're usually fairly honest about although we're biased towards Rob, but we're usually fairly honest about what we like and don't like, and we love it. I'm really interested to know how did that one come about? Was that a result of jamming and sort of how did it start?
I was Kelvin messaged me. I was living in Stafford. Kelvin was living in Stoke-on-Trent, and Kelvin messaged me and said, "Rob's after some new stuff. He wants to do something a bit different." So I made a demo of the Beats from Rudebox and sent it to Kelvin with like a demo 1 thingy, and he didn't want to send it with that name, and Kelvin thought it was rude and it sounded boxy, so he called it Rudebox on the demo that you sent to him. Do you remember that, Cal? Yeah, it was rude. It sounded boxy.
You know, there's so many theories into why it's got that name, and now we know.
Yeah,
not glamorous, is it?
That's good.
Yeah, and the original was made in a garden shed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I did the BVs on it, Danny, when you produced Rudebox, I came down to the BVs in that
In that shed.
in the shed, the garden. Yeah. Not glamorous.
Whose shed was it?
My shed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not had one since.
So Rob obviously really likes it, and then he started sort of
He wrote the
developing
lyrics.
and
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that was all. That was all really fluid how that happened, because it's like, what, you want to make some electro? Let's do that then. You know, it's like,
I think also the Boops record, Sly and Robbie thing.
Yeah.
It was like, that was an idea flying around, kind of like, oh, we love this, and that filtered into it. I mean, there was no. Rob was just feeling free, you know, and we were like, we were happy to go along with it all. It was great fun, you know. That was the main thing, and because of that, there was no filter. And I think and also his management and the record company at the time were all like, yes to everything, because he just smashed it out of the park with a previous album.
Yeah.
So it was like, go and do what you want, and you know, and he did. Yeah.
But unfortunately, there are certain factions that just had it in for Rob no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, it didn't matter what he did.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be the reaction.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a shame, really, because I think Rudebox was a good record.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest album of all time, but it's definitely not the worst.
No. It's got some of my favourite Robbie songs on it. I love it.
I've even heard people say it's ahead of its time, but I don't think it was. I think it was of its time, you know. And it's for us, it's still timeless because it captures a period of time which, you know, we remember as well. So you know, we love it.
I was saying, and plus at the time we were sponsored by Adidas, so we got loads of free tracksuits and trainers. So there was these perks going on.
As an observer, again, because you know, I'm looking at my brothers making this music with Robbie Williams, and they got the invite to do because my brother, he'll say, come do some BVs. I mean, I'm not going to turn it down, but and I think we discussed this after, because I got involved when that album came out. I got involved writing wise when that album was actually out at the time. So it was a really good album, and probably, if I was going to blame somebody, it would be the record company, because if they'd have put Love Lies out first as an opener to that and said, come and listen to this album, it would have drawn people in, rather than going, you know, it's Rudebox. If you can't get your head around it, you probably won't buy the album. It was a bit of a mistake, I thought.
I actually suggested that, and it didn't happen. I was so surprised. I was like, oh, they came with Rudebox. I was thinking, oh, maybe it is great. You know, and I was literally like, maybe I've missed something here. But I thought Love Lies.
Yeah. Oh, and some of the messages we got were, "You've ruined Robbie."
Oh no!
It was like, we didn't mean to.
They were off me, Dan.
Oh, sorry. So's rich.
So then we move on to Reality Killed the Video Star.
All right, okay.
When obviously, Rich, you were more involved in that one, and did you all three of you go over to LA at various times all together to write with him?
We went together generally, yeah. And
went to all sorts of places, didn't we?
Rob was loving hanging out with us, and he was like, "Come on, let's go on holiday." And we went on holiday a lot, and we take a bit of recording equipment with us, we were recording the locals singing on a group of local Egyptian people on a boat on the Nile. It was so experimental what was going on. We were recording everything, and an idea would come along, you know, where we were sometimes enhanced as well by, you know, it was a great time. It was really brilliant, you know.
What happened then was that the brother came along with a pot broom and just tidied up a little bit. I mean, I would only say that, you know, I love the stuff Kelvin and Danny do, and it's not that I've never done anything that's a bit slightly weird, but I'm very much a pop person. Yeah, I think that's what my place is, if anything. Yeah. Bit of the pop police coming in and going, hang on, lads. Yeah. But I think from his management point of view, if what Danny was saying earlier, you know, perhaps at the time anyway, they would have perhaps thought, well, these lads will keep doing these kind of strange records they can't get. And then someone came along who was part of the group, if you like, and gave them, I don't know, almost like the Guy Chambers thing.
Yeah.
So they were I think they were a bit taken back, to be honest. Didn't know where to go with that one, but we all delivered. You know, on that album, as you say, we mentioned "You Know Me" earlier, "Morning Storm," and I think they're great pop songs.
They are, yeah.
As good as anything else. And I think maybe you being a fan, maybe at the time, maybe you being a fan, fans rather, would you have said that at the time? Was you saying, "Oh, we should get back with Guy Chambers"? I mean, obviously, everyone's hearing that because we heard it all the time.
No, I never said that.
No.
Because we loved Rudebox and I loved Reality Killed the Video Star.
Yeah.
If anything, Trevor Horn, with the guy breaking the rules, we'd deliver a song in a sort of an arrangement that was pretty straightforward, and he would change the time signature and take it somewhere else. And this is like the greatest producer that the 80s produced, the most important pop producer in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
And no one was going to argue with Trevor. I think it was paid pretty well for the album too.
It's got a very Trevor sound, the album.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
If you were to hear the
demos,
the demo of "You Know Me,"
mm-hmm.
I think, and if you like that, not "You Know Me," won't do that to you.
Yeah.
If you heard the demo of that, I think you'd probably go, "Why did Trevor Horn do that to it?" Because I still to this day hear it and think it got quite a lot of almost like McCartney-esque push me, pull me chords set, sort of. It was a proper song, and it kind of just.
It's like You Know Me. You Know Me was, in its original form, was like a J Dilla cut up. It was a hip hop feel, even though it got this sort of this traditional sound to it. The way we cut it up, it was done in a hip hop way.
Yeah.
With Rob singing over it. But when Trevor got hold of it, he straightened that up. He made it a bit more traditional, and I liked the hip hopness of it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you could hear that it was taken off a record, and I like all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
it's a quality that you can't replay, isn't it?
Yeah, we had that conversation with Guy Chambers, didn't we, when we were doing Rock DJ? He said, "Oh, replay that," and it's like you can't replay that. You'll end up with a pastiche of it. You won't end up with that.
Yeah,
it's that's the thing about sampling is it's important. It's as an art form, it's important because you capture a whole moment in time, and then you bring it into another time. So it's kind of. It's like wrapped up in an envelope of time. It's beautiful,
From a personal point of view, also there's the obvious tracks on Reality Kill Video Star. What was the one with the vocoder on we did?
Decepticon, man.
Oh, yeah. We love that.
Now, Danny's version was good. I like Trevor's version though. I do. I think he did add something to it, but the whole of that to me was still. We're in that experimental thing still, and it's still there. It's still apparent to me.
Well, when Trevor was mixing it, I walked in and he played what he'd done. The whole orchestra was on it and everything, and I was like, "Wow, that's brilliant." He goes, "That's your work." He goes, "All we did is dress it up," and that was a really nice thing for him to say. You know what I mean? He says, "That's your production." I was like, "Oh, wicked!" Trevor Horn said that.
And that was written in Trout Lake, wasn't it?
Yeah, while we were watching UFOs.
We're going to ask you about that.
I was going to say one little story I've got, which I do tell people. So it's nice to get it out there, to be honest, in a way. Is when we did the BBC Proms and we went back to the hotel with Beardy, the keyboard player, and then Trevor's engineers. We all piled back to the hotel after the gig, and I noticed obviously that the harmonica or mouth organ, as I always refer to it, on the beginning was from the original demo. And according to Graham, the engineer at SARM at the time, said, "All right, is that you?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And I rang Scott up and said, "Do you play the mouth organ?" He said, "No, I don't." I said, "Oh, you're useless, you want," because he plays everything else. And so I thought I'll give it a go myself, and I put it down here in this room, in fact. And then apparently when Trevor got in various harmonica players to replay it, he just eventually went, no, we'll just stick with the original.
Wow.
and I don't play the mouth organ at all. I mean, it took me about 2 hours to achieve that. It was.
You do now.
That's cool.
Love it. Love that story. And I think, Rich, going back to what you asked earlier on, certainly we and none of the hardcore fans, most of the hardcore fans that we know were quite interested in Rob's change of direction and the experimentalism that was coming about in his career. I certainly was. I mean, I've got quite eclectic, progressive sort of tastes. So for me to see him change and take a little bit of a direction, I just thought, wow, that's really brave. That's really quite brave for someone in that position who's being told a lot of the time, you should do this, you should do that, to actually be able to do what he wanted to do. And as I said, I think your influences, you know, were a big part of that by the sounds of it from the early days. And we still see it now, you know, in Under the Radar and the other things that he plays around with and releases. And it's good to see that that's not left him. You know, he's if anything, he wants to do more experimental stuff. So
I think he's more aware now that it's like, okay, we're going to make a record. Let's not waste too much time going off on it, but let's do a bit of it.
Yeah.
Definitely in him.
So you did actually get to work with Trevor yourselves. He didn't just sort of take your work and then he just did something with it.
That was how the central midfield thing came about, wasn't it?
Yeah, they gave us a studio at Soul West while it was going on. So we had basically our own studio. In fact, for a while we had Studio 2, which is where Careless Whisper was recorded, and All Right Now by Free, and the piano was in there off Bohemian Rhapsody. And it was like, and we're like, this is so cool. But yeah, we were given our own studio really for how long? 3-4 months was it, Kel?
Yeah.
That we were down there. Yeah, we were at in the studio with Trevor for the entire time.
Oh, that's amazing.
You know, yeah, and it was really cool. It was such a great experience. Yeah, it was back to school. It was, you know, right now I'm going to learn how to make a record properly.
Right.
You know?
And Trevor said at the end of the session, I think it was at the end of the Roundhouse gig, and he came up to me. I'm not sure exactly his exact words, but it was like, working with you guys was one of the most pleasurable things I've ever done in this game. And we were like, wow.
Was he ringing up a card?
No, I think he was very drunk or something. I don't know. But he was very kind, wasn't he, Danny?
Yeah, he was very complimentary about us, and I'm such a big fan of so much work that Trevor's done. You know, Trevor Horn is like sort of next level production wise, and for him to sort of even acknowledge that what we're doing is any good at all is a super buzz. You know,
Cool.
I was going to say, we went one more thing. I wasn't privy to. I wasn't there with Danny and Kelvin all the time, but we went obviously visiting the studio. Yeah. And Clive Black said, "Do you want to come up to Studio One and come and sit in?" He says, "Trevor doesn't normally allow, but I've had a word, and you're not here all the time." So we went and sat in these chairs, all me and Scott, quite sheepishly, and they were recording. Won't do that to you, and it was someone in the vocal booth saying, "Won't do that to you," and then he said, "Hang on a sec, what's he singing now, lads?" He said, "You the writers, what's not the session? What's he singing?" We were kind of rabbits in the headlight, basically. We were sitting in Studio One, and Trevor was asking us a question. We really weren't, you know, there's no strength of personality at all. We kind of went, his singing won't do that. I don't know. Anyway, the backing vocals finished, and out came Lol Cream from Golden Cream who was doing BVs on our song. It was just the most mind-blowing time, I think, for me personally, anyway. Yeah. Lol Cream from Golden Cream singing my song. So.
Except for Intensity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Lol walks out the studio and Trevor goes, "He did I'm Not in Love." So it's like Trevor's equally a big fan.
Yeah.
I think that's why he's so good at what he does, because he's never lost that fandom of music, you know. And I think that's a super important thing. I haven't lost that. I'm still buzzing. Where, you know, I buzz off these kind of things anyway. You know, there's for me, that's what it's all about. It's like reaching out to people who mean something to you, and they go, "All right," and you go, "Whoa." That's cool.
It comes from the heart, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. So I got a slightly off-piece question, and Danny, you did mention it just a moment ago. So Rob often talks about seeing a weird black light coming through into the studio when you were playing in Arizona in the San Fernando Valley when he's asked about UFOs. And so what's your memory of that day?
It was there was a whole bunch of us. We were a bit UFO crazy. A lot of us we were talking about UFOs quite a lot. We got a little bit psychedelic, and things started happening. And we were standing. We've been watching this what looked like a jellyfish in the sky. We're going, oh, that's really mad. Everyone saw it. And we came in, and then there was suddenly there's like a black flash in the room, but it was like a band of black went through the room. And we went, did you just see that? And we were like, yeah, we all saw it, and everybody saw it, didn't they? It was the strangest thing. It was like black light. So, but it did the opposite of what light does, where light diffuses. This was so definite. It was like a rip in space. It was amazing. Yeah. It was so strange. Yeah.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we weren't very psychedelic. We were just mildly psychedelic, you know.
Yeah, but for you all to see the same thing, there was obviously something there.
Yeah. It was definitely not just the psychedelic aspect. Something happened.
I wasn't there.
Needing Rich there to go, that happened.
No. Rich should have been there to go, no, I didn't see anything.
Well, we've always thought there's something else out there, so we're pretty open-minded when it comes to that. So when we hear Rob chatting away about that, we're like, yeah. We're not alone.
I mean, we've seen stuff with Rob, haven't we? We've been to watch stuff and been away looking at UFOs. Yeah. And there's strange stuff out there. I can't say one way or another what it is. You know, I mean, we went along to Trout Lake when we were doing the Reality Kill the Video Star sessions when we were in Trout Lake, and we were like the UFO enthusiasts. But on this investigation, they had a whole bunch of so-called skeptics. Anyway, we saw all this stuff in the sky, and we're supposed to be like the ones going, whoa, it's a UFO. And these skeptics are freaking out over it, going, no, it's a UFO, and saying it could be a plane. So the roles changed, you know. It was because I'd love to see something and definitely say that it's a UFO, but I don't want to be fooled.
Yeah,
I want to be sure before I say.
That's exactly what Rob's like as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's in a way the people who aren't skeptical are probably the most level-headed about UFOs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really it's I didn't know that until that day. It was like, now calm down, lads. We don't know what it was.
Oh, brilliant.
I just had a bit of a question about Somewhere on that album, because it lists Jonathan Hand, Stephen Cadman and Andy Stubbs as well.
That was taken from the Sound 5 album that Surface Noise was on.
Oh, so they're the other members of Sound 5?
They are, yeah. That's right.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Now that makes sense. Because I couldn't find out who they were anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, they were our bandmates.
Right.
Now it all makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So then a few favourites that Rob hasn't talked about much that we just like to hear a little bit about. What about The Queen? We love the lyrics on that song.
Yeah.
Rabbit, basically, and it was an anything goes moment in the studio. A little jam appeared, and Rob went off on this tangent about the Queen, and then announced, "There goes my MBE."
But I think that left in when he recorded Teenage Millionaire, and he said she can pin it on my manhood. And that was 97.
Right, yeah, long before.
Yeah, he's always had it in for the Queen, I think.
He loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do love the lyrics to that one.
And then what about On My Own with Tom Jones? Was Tom always going to be a duet on that one?
That just came about because Tom lived around the corner from Rob, really.
Tom Jones would be like downstairs chatting to Rob's dad because he used to hang out there, and we heard, Tom's going to come up and do a vocal for us, and we had the idea for On My Own. I think we were working with Josh Stone as well, weren't we, Danny, at that time?
Yeah, we did a track called Elastic with Josh Stone, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. And funny enough, Tom came in the studio and he was singing the song, and it wasn't quite what we set out. So I stopped Tom and sang it to Tom Jones. No, can you do it a bit more like this? And when I'd done that, it was just like flipping out. The next day, Tom Jones's son, who's his manager, came around and said, Tom's really impressed with you guys. Because everyone doesn't tell him what to do. But because we were like honest, he loved that. He wanted the direction. Yeah. And it was kind of nice, you know. He's a lovely man. And still got the most powerful voice I've ever recorded.
We had a mic preamp, and the lowest setting on it was almost not low enough for Tom's voice. Wow. It was like it was that close to being distorted for the entire session. He's got this powerful voice, and it's like, whoa! And you're sitting there in the studio and you're doing your thing, and there's famous voices coming out singing your song, and it's like, this is really this is like some weird dream, right? I had this dream that Tom Jones was singing our song, and it was like, and he was just there, yeah. It was, and he was telling us stories about leather trousers and talcum powder, and
punching Jerry Lee Lewis out.
Yeah, that was He told us some great stories, and then told us some stories of his time hanging out with Elvis, and you know, and it's like mind-blowing. Yeah, totally mind-blowing. Having a beer with him on the balcony in LA, talking about Elvis, and going, this is so cool. You know, it's probably
easier to ask Tom who he doesn't know rather than who he does know and who he hasn't worked with. Yeah. Wow. He's
been around a while, hasn't he?
Incredible. And they work together so well. I mean, they really do. I mean, obviously that Brit's performance is legendary, and I think it's going to end. Well, we know it's going to end up hopefully in the Better Man film, don't we? So we got some questions about Better Man. No, we might have to ask about that.
What about Super Tony? I think that was originally called Cocaine.
It's originally called Cocaine,
yeah. Well, it came from, because we used to have these, we just mess about anyway, just be stupidness going on. And it was the Peter Kay thing, wasn't it? It was the Peter Kay thing where
I remember that.
Where I think there's in when they're doing the bounces on the door on Phoenix Nights.
Oh yeah.
One of them says, he was going out with a short person, shall we say. His girlfriend was just, and he said, I know what it is. Does she go up on you? And all this kind of thing. And then he turns around and says, too far, Tony, and headbutts him. And that's where he came from. Too far, Tony was the beginning of Too Far, Tony, Super Tony. And that's how that lyric, that's how I remember it.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like a cross between a song out of Bugsy Malone and a Britpop like classic. It's got chorus and a Bugsy Malone verse and bridge. Yeah. So I'm quite fond of that. I know. I
love it.
It's a bit of a daft one, but I always, at the time, that's when we were starting to talk about Robbie the musical, and that was sort of, it was kind of like in that space there, you know. Yeah. I'm not really sure. Super Tony.
Went on one of the
Under the Radar.
Okay,
yeah, Under the Radar Volume 1.
There's some of our good songs.
like Kelvin said, though, we have done so much material with Rob that I don't know. I don't even know which ones they've used and which ones they haven't done. You know what I mean? I really don't. But I found some stuff the other day that was on one of the drives here. I'm like, no, I can't believe I can't remember that Bionic.
Bionic, yeah.
Bionic's a cool track. Yeah, it's a cool track. Yeah, it's really nice.
Come out because it's unreleased. That's it.
Yeah. It was only ever a demo, and it was like, but I always love that groove on that. That was super cool. You know,
we went to say hello to him when he played the Port Vale homecoming concert.
Yeah.
And, just before he went on stage, we were kind of backstage, and he was like, "There's a track with blah blah blah," and he was like, "Can we dig that out?" And we're talking like 15 years ago at least.
It was from 2006, yeah.
Yeah. and we dug out, and he's like...
Found it down, by the way.
Hey.
And what's the title again?
It's called...
La Niña Sucia.
Yeah, La Niña Sucia. It's absolutely brilliant. It's like a piece of glam rock.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah, so
Wow.
With my one-fingered keyboard solo on it.
Yeah.
One more thing. It's got Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols on it.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh yeah. And he came in and he played for about a fifth of the song, and then I said, "Oh, I can't be bothered to do this," and put his guitar down and left. Right? So we only had this little tiny bit of guitar that was down, and we realised that one of his strings was out of tune.
Oh, no.
But actually, that's part of the sound of the track.
Right.
It's got this sort of off kilter thing in there. That's because he didn't tune his guitar properly.
Rock and roll, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds as though you've got about 10 times the amount of material that's actually out there. We've got we can send you the list. We've got the list of where you're attributed anyway. But,
Yeah. There's a few bits. There's a few bits that will probably surprise me as well, because it was like, oh, no way, yeah. You can't remember everything.
No.
But the release of Under the Radar, Volume 1, was important because that, again, was Robbie saying, I want to release stuff that I know that I love, and I want the fans to hear it. And I don't want middleman people getting in the way. He didn't say that, but that was the subcontext of it. It was like, I'm releasing this. You can buy it off the website. Off you go.
Yeah.
And the fans absolutely
Love it
loved
so
it
much.
and still love it. And it was what the Under the Radar gig at Camden a couple of years ago was all about. You know, that was about him singing his songs and the things he wanted to sing.
We've done a few on those Under the Radar albums. Been a few.
Yeah.
Swing, as well as some of the harder stuff.
I was going to ask about the swing stuff. You've obviously written quite a lot of swing songs together. Is that your influence, Rich, on the swing, or is that all of you?
Well, I mean, going back to when you asked one of the first questions about musical taste, I think, to be fair, I don't think Kelvin or Danny would be involved if they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I probably drive those things a little bit more. I may instigate those things a little bit more. I think Rob knows that. I usually sing the demos as well. And he did compliment me once and said, you know, when I get in front of the mic to sing these, I think it's not as good as a Rich will do. And I said to him, oh, right. He went, it's a compliment. I went, I know, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to say. But, you know, I think he's used to hearing my voice now, which is good because it's always the sell, isn't it? But going back to what you were saying earlier, you know, talking about the swing stuff, the best thing about our situation in general is that swing stuff, weird stuff, whichever, disco stuff, whatever it is, we're able to just play to him and go, what do you think? And he can go, I don't really like it, you know, which is fair enough. But we haven't got to go through people who then are going to give their opinion to. Of course, eventually you're going to get that hoop to jump through. But if he's already singing on it, he's already writing on it, then that's a decision for them to make. But you know, that's the nice thing, that you literally have the ear of one of the most incredible artists. I've worked with some people, Engelbert Humperdinck, you work with Tom Jones. I'm just saying, you know, when you meet really famous people, and they've got far less of an ego than the people who not really that famous in the modern sense. And they're just honest people and say, that is really good what you've done. And you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
We can play Rob, you know, a swing 40s style song and an electro clash weird out there track, and he gets it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He understands it. He's not like, oh, it's not really for me. We know we can play stuff to him, and we have a broad palette, to say the least,
So with regard to the swing stuff, just to answer your question, I love it. I and Kelvin and Danny grew up with my dad playing us that stuff, and the main thing, because he didn't have that many albums, but the main album was Sinatra Live at the Sands, and that was completely always the yardstick.
Right.
And that was the bloke at the height of his powers. That was, people might have said, but the recording techniques were there, the arrangements with Count Basie, the level that Sinatra was at that point. You just can't better it, and it's live, and it's the most incredible thing, one of the most incredibly sonic things I've will ever hear. And that was the standard. And I felt like I always had to achieve that. So I think presenting songs to Rob in with that in mind, hopefully they're going to be good enough. You mentioned Steve Sidwell earlier. Incredible arranger and stuff. I don't know if he's a songwriter. I don't know, but obviously he's arranged. I've never met the guy, but he's arranged some of the songs we've done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, in my own head. No one's going to ask me that question, but I'm thinking, is he Oscar nominated? I think he was.
Grammy winner, yeah.
Grammy winner.
Mm-hmm.
Grammy winner, yeah. I mean, he's one, and he's arranging the songs that we're writing. It was things like that are just mind blowing to me. I'm totally taken aback. But I mean, I'd love the chance to produce the stuff. To be honest, because the demos we do, as in Rob's own words, are you lot do posh demos. Everything we do is kind of almost there, really.
Well, I've noticed that on the Under the Radar albums, the ones that you have done on there are produced by you.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, and then it was on the Christmas album was recent. I mean, Danny did Rudebox anyway, didn't you? Really, not all of it. Didn't do all of it.
No, didn't do all of it.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of fell into that. I suppose it's like they're that good. I suppose they're good enough, and that's no one's ever said. You know what I mean?
Well, they are good enough. They're great.
Do you like one of my favourite tracks, Under the Radar? Do you like Home Again?
Oh, that is one of my favourites. I love that song. I was listening to it today, and I was thinking how incredible it was. Just absolutely love it.
Beautiful song.
And it should not have been on the deluxe version. It should have been on there for everyone. It's incredible.
We always seem to drop there. I don't know if your fans knows where we end up on these things. We always seem to drop on the deluxe version or the B-side or something. But again, the powers that be might not always favour us. We've already discussed that. But we're not bad people. We love Rob and we want the best for him.
Yeah.
And the gamut of sound going from like things like Rudebox through to the stuff on the Christmas album, you wouldn't believe they come from the same people.
I know, it's incredible.
I don't know anybody else writes with him with that range.
No.
Yeah.
Personally.
No, I don't think so.
So you wrote, on the Christmas present, you wrote 5 songs, 6 if you include Soul Transmission. And Soul Transmission, we can tell you, is a big, massive fan favourite. And we're really glad it was included. And Rob said he did a track-by-track commentary for that. And he said he couldn't remember a lot from when he first wrote it. So can you remember? Can you fill in some gaps for us on Soul Transmission?
Well, I didn't write it. I co-produced it with Danny Kelvin for the Christmas album.
Right. Yeah.
We were in the studio at Psalm. Yeah. And it was and we were just jamming an idea, and as far as I was concerned, Trevor was a writer on it. I actually said to his management, Trevor wrote some of this. No, he didn't. No, okay, right, so I kind of backed off. Okay, but yeah, it was an idea. Same as interview with email from a vampire. It was the same session.
Okay.
I think we were doing we were on a bit of a roll with that. Soul Transmissions certainly. It's transcended. It's been on 2 albums, hasn't it? And on 2 sessions, anyway.
Yeah.
But that was it just came about jamming an idea. Danny sprinkling his magic on it. Me and Rob were jamming some lyrics around, And then next thing you know, we've got a song, and very fond of it. I am. I'm sure Danny.
With the groove originally, I thought it sounded like ABBA. And that's kind of where I was thinking with it. I was thinking it's like doing an ABBA track, this is, and then I didn't tell anyone that, and no one else, and people took it to different places. But yeah,
you told me that.
Yeah.
And when it came to producing it for the first time, you handed it over to me and Scott. After at a certain point, we put all the choir on it, if you like. Me and Scott doing the choiry bits and stuff. And then when it was re-recorded, technically speaking, for the next incarnation on the Christmas album.
Yeah.
And what happened was it was only supposed to be a extra track.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went down to his house in Wiltshire. Me and Calvin, we did the vocal. I came back, got an orchestra on it. I eked up the vocals. Danny did some more post-production in Barcelona. We just threw everything at it as quickly as we could. And when we played to Robbie, went, I've got to put this on the main album. I'm going to have to disappoint somebody else in one of their tracks off it. It was never our intention, but that's what happened. He loved it that much. He I don't know who he pushed off, but we got a phone call.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then on to Rudolph. I'm really fascinated to know whose idea it was to put the Robinson Crusoe and Carol of the Bells thing together. Was it?
Yeah. And to be honest, he's sitting next to me. When I first said it to Calvin, I said, I've got this idea. And he went, well, you can't do that. So I just carried on. I did it. And I played it. And it was like, I mean, to be honest, going back to Danny from Strawberry Fields Forever, I went to the studio in 1989 and he played the track to me. And my first reaction was, it was funky, drum to slow down. I said, you can't do that. And then 30 seconds later, I was like, oh, you can. It's brilliant. But the same with Calv. I think the idea, it's hard. You know, if you've got an idea really swirling around in your head, if you don't put it across right, it might not, so you literally have to demonstrate it. So I think when you heard it, though, you were.
Yeah, once the idea was put together, that was it. It was just the penny dropped. It was like, yeah, amazing. Because it was like, I'm a bit wary of taking 2 or 3 ideas and putting them together anyway, because of my experience with Rudebox, I think.
Right.
With rock DJ, should I say?
Yeah.
And I was, so I'm like kind of holding, particularly in that world where, people are wary of sampling and credits and publishing comes into the play. It was once there's a hit, there's a Ritz, as they say.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the way I look at it is, if it's going to be a hit, the lawyers will sort it out.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? It's like, just do it. Just express yourself.
Yeah.
And then let the law sort it out after.
Yeah.
You don't want to be worried about them things in the studio, do you?
I think when players played to Rob, he said, "I'm not going to have a problem, am I?" I said that one's public domain. I hope we've got the beeper again. Sorry, got a few of them for it. Just let them go.
Hey,
let's sample that.
I think we did on Rudebox, didn't we?
Well, I said one's public domain and one is obviously published by people, but again, like Danny just said, it was just do it because it's such a good idea. So
yeah. You were right. You were absolutely right.
And when it came, I sent him the demo on a Saturday. Well, I got it quickly as I could together, sent it to him, and he immediately reacted. And I said, "I'm really proud of it. I think it sounds." He said, "So you should be." He said, "It's otherworldly."
It is.
It is.
It's incredible. It should have been the single instead of Time for Change, I think.
I'll rest my case, my lord.
Yeah.
Because Rob said that's the trick with Christmas songs, to write something you feel you've heard before. And that is the thing with that song. It just instantly just takes you to Christmas.
Yeah. That's the trick with pop music. The trick with pop music is familiarity. Yeah. Most of it is giving them something that they do already know, but hiding it. Yeah. It's true though, isn't it? It is. Pop music is all mostly plagiarism. Yeah.
I think Mark Ralph said recently to me, Dan, he said, the thing about it is we as writers, as producers, we're constantly just trying to reproduce what we love. Anyway, we're just trying to remake all the stuff we love. It makes us feel good, you know. So
Yeah.
It is. It's just being a fan in a different way, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I want to make records that make people feel like those records make me feel.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I want to do, because I know that that's real magic. You know, and I want to be part of that. You know.
But touching on the Christmas one, I mean, there's another example is "Let's Not Go Shopping." I don't know whether you like that record. I love the lyrics of that, and we were kind of, I don't know, perhaps we were in Rob mode when we were coming up with the lyrics for that or whatever. But it literally came from, and this is before, I think Rob said, let's do some Christmas stuff, maybe, tentatively said it. And Calv said to me, why didn't you do a track called, I remember when you were sitting in the kitchen upstairs and you said, let's do a track called Let's Not Go Shopping. I mean, I've always found, going back, that to write a song from the title is not necessarily my favourite occupation.
Right.
It becomes a box that I can't quite fit into the shape, if you like.
It came together.
It just rolled. It was so. Let's not go shopping. You know, I mean, it's just. I love singing it. I loved when Rob sang it. It was absolutely.
It's very Robbie-esque. It works. So I think you were in Robbie mode.
Yeah, but also even though there's that cynical element of it, we love Christmas.
Yeah.
Right.
We love Christmas like kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but we're also aware of that sardonic element that is that sort of, you know,
Scrooge.
Sarcastic, sitting in the chair and everyone's drunk and it's crap, you know.
Yeah.
we do love Christmas. We're not cynics about Christmas.
Okay.
You know? But we know that you can be cynical about it, so that was the idea behind the song. You know?
But basically, as people, sarcasm's never off the table. Basically,
we're picking
even if
that
things
up.
are going well, someone's going to be sarcastic about it.
Particularly with brothers. You know, there's no filter really. You know, there's no politeness. You know, it comes out. You know.
So it must have been lovely for you then to actually write a Christmas, be part of writing a Christmas album. I mean, we talked about it at the time, you know, and we remember Robbie sort of saying about it.
Yes,
I mean,
talked about it
you
for a
hear
long
the
time.
same Christmas songs every year, don't you? And the radio just repeats the same sort of 20 songs or more, not many more than that. So it was so nice, and it's nice for us as fans now. That's obviously all we play at Christmas. So it must have been nice being a part of that if you love Christmas so much, you know, because we needed that injection of new Christmas music.
The strange thing at the time was having to record that, write that, and then sort of relinquish all the demos. Interestingly enough, I was having to send everything off to Guy Chambers and Richard Flack, I think it was at the time, and they kept emailing me saying, "Have you got any more vocals?" Because Rob doesn't want to do any more. He thinks he's done his vocals. I mean, bear in mind, we recorded the vocals. Danny will be testament to this. In his house in Wiltshire, there was a building outside with an apex ceiling, tiled floor. Rob's got one headphone off. The music's coming out the speaker. It was just the most
ideal.
It was terrible. And I managed to bring the vocals back and for the demo purposes and tidy him up that tightly. Rob just heard the demos and thought, that's good enough. Why have we got to do that again?
Yeah.
Actually, the vocals you hear on a lot of those my tracks are the vocals you did.
Oh.
In the middle of the summer, it was red hot. In the middle of the summer down in Wiltshire.
That was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah. Down, we were all three of us there at that point. And
writing Christmas songs in July. It was
ironically, whilst that was going on, loving Christmas this is, I then got asked to do the Chris Kamara Christmas album as well.
I saw that.
So I was literally doing Christmas records, and then the following year I did the second Chris Kamara album. It was like I've done something like 30 Christmas songs, and people all my life had said, "Why don't you write a Christmas song?" I'm not doing one. I can't. No, I don't want that. And I end up basically becoming Mr. Christmas. Yeah.
He's been getting threatening letters off Santa.
Yeah.
Rich Christmas. There we go.
So yeah.
So, do you all sit down together to write music, or does one of you start something and send it to the others? How do you like to work?
I think it depends who's around. I think sometimes, you know, it'll come from Rich, come from Danny. I'm normally involved with in the middle, sort of going from one place to the other. Danny's got this thing, play it to Rich. Rich, we've got this thing we're working on together, play it to Danny. If nothing's off the table in a sense. I mean, if it's electronic, we get Danny involved. It's got, if it's classic and it's orchestral, Rich is involved.
Yeah.
And obviously there's everything in between as well. So, and I'm like across the board. So,
Okay.
So we have sat down with all three of us there, and Danny and I have sat down with Rob from the off start with nothing and come up with something, and then, an idea will appear. And then we'll be in LA and Rich will send a demo over, and then the song could develop. It comes from everywhere,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any particular rule or way of doing it.
It's nice when we work together, though, isn't it? It's nice when we're all in the same room. That's always better, isn't it?
It's better, yeah. Feel that.
I've noticed that there's no songs with Danny and Rich, just the two of you.
No, we haven't.
Well, I think it's because we just tend to kind of, I don't know what's the word, start with an idea and then we all get together and finish it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the way why.
Yeah.
I think there was a period, of course, where Kelvin and Danny were doing their thing,
Yeah.
and I was doing something completely different.
Yeah.
So it was, me getting involved. I mean, that Danny just remember that story quickly. I was working in a carpet shop basically,
Oh.
and Kelvin and Danny went over to LA in 2005 to do stuff before Rudolph. Yeah, for Rudolph. That was the starting point, Rudolph. So they went over there, and Danny was then. I was at my house on a Saturday afternoon. Danny and Kelvin were at Milton Keynes for some gig, and Danny rang me. My wife was outside. It's a bit boring, but I'm trying to set the scene.
Yeah.
She's outside talking to the neighbour, and the phone goes, and it's Danny saying, "I've just spoken to Rob, and he's said next time we go to LA, you've got to come with us." So I kind of went, "What?" And my wife's looking at me, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, fine," So I went over. It was towards Christmas in 2006. So Rudolph was out. I went over there and did some writing. Some of that was what we talked about. And then basically Kelvin and Danny said, "Luke, you should be doing this full time. You shouldn't be in a shop."
Yeah.
That's that point when I decided to bite the bullet, as it were. So it's thanks to Kelvin and Danny. As much as they really need, because they're rubbish on their own.
This is so true. This is so true.
The funny thing is, I'm plotting this thing where Rich and Danny are working together in my head now. I'm like, okay, how am I going to?
Brilliant.
We planted the seed.
So, what's the best thing about working with Rob?
Who wants to
Working
go
with you-
first?
Working with your mate and it being that relaxed.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it, is that when we're in the studio, it's a Stoke thing. You know what I mean? And you feel that, and I think Rob feels that too. It's like it's home. Even if we're in LA, there's something quite homely about us speaking with our local dialect to each other, making good records.
Yeah.
It's that's nice. And I mean, Rob's always said, like, when we were in Sound 5, he goes, if I wasn't in Take That, I think I'd have been in Sound 6. I
think Danny just summed it up. It is that feeling of there's a certain humour and certain references to places and times and that you can only have with people from your hometown.
Yeah.
Bursland Normals. We buzzed out off a piece of graffiti in Burslem and wrote a song about it. And you can't do that unless you've got that shared history. We all remembered that, and it was like, no way. It's sort of trying to imagine who the Bursland Normals were. It's like,
Love that song.
There was only probably one person.
Must have been two.
Yeah. Otherwise, it said Bursland Normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not.
It's not. No.
And Rich, for you?
For me, Well, I think we get a bit of a bad rap that Danny mentioned working with your mate, which I totally agree with that. I think it's true. But he never started that, as we've outlined. We worked as his mates, and I think we get the bad press on it. But it is that, like Danny says, you go into the situation, and it is like working with your mate. So,
well, it's because we're working with a mate.
we're just kind of wrongly accused of being. That's the reason we're there, because I think we're there because we make great music. Without sounding too big-headed, as it were. But for me, I enjoy his company. I enjoy his humour. I think he brings so much that people won't give him credit for. I'm sure his fans think, I'm sure he's great, he's brilliant, but he actually is better than some people see. I sit there sometimes and I'm quite blown away with his musicality, and I think what you sometimes don't see that. Sometimes a lot of people dismiss it. I'm sure his fans don't, but dismiss him as a bit of a puppet.
I think Rob's more of an artist than even he realizes he is. And I think that obviously you're going to read what people say about you in that position, and you're going to take a little bit on board. But we worked with him. We worked with him a lot, and he's genuinely approaches it in an artistic way, doesn't he? He doesn't just go. There's nothing cynical about the way he writes songs. He wants to write great songs. He wants to, when he does his art, he wants to paint great pictures. There's more to him than just pop star.
Yes.
Yeah. Much more,
Yeah, Rob often talks about the law of abundance, or the power of abundance, and positive thinking, and bringing those kinds of things into your life. And I think all of what you've said, it's part of the reason why we've done the podcast, actually, because I think we wanted to, as fans, we wanted to explore through his whole career and really bring it to life. But actually, to your point, I think he's way more of an artist than he even realizes. And that's not doing him down. I'm just saying, I think he's just creatively brilliant. And like you say, the media sometimes miss that. Well, not sometimes, quite a lot of the time. It's like, no, you can only be one thing. Stay in your lane. Well, why have we got to? I mean, you guys have proven that, right? So you're a testament to that.
They love to stick you in a box. They love to go, that's what you are. But actually, is anyone just that one thing?
No.
It's like, and Rob's no different. He isn't just a pop star.
No.
I mean, he's a super creative, talented guy.
Yeah.
And he's also really good fun to work with.
Yeah.
We do have a laugh.
He's a great host, and he's a gentleman, and he does care genuinely about people as well. And he's a very warm guy. You know what I mean? I'm saying this watching how he is with strangers.
Yeah.
He's a warm, genuine, and as long as people aren't weird, because when they are, his alarm bells and he's off like a shot. But when they're not weird and they're nice, he's just like opens up to them, and he knows how to make them feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's got a real talent for that. Yeah. He's brimming with different talents, not just the ones that people think he's got.
Yeah. Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So what's the most memorable moment from the years working together for each of you?
Wow.
Big question, right?
Yeah.
I think, as they've just talked about, being there, and that probably never becomes normal. I would say, for me personally, that is. But I remember getting the call to go over to LA with Kelvin and Danny, and arrived outside his house, and I was looking at his house, and I got out of the car and went into his house. I know it's all a bit obvious, but went in. I was taking all this in, and I just kind of went, "Oh, I haven't seen you for 12 years." I hadn't seen him for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
He'd become, you'd seen him on and off, but he'd become this thing, if you like. But then when I spoke to him, he was the same guy that I knew before he'd had success. So I felt that was a really special moment. That's probably the thing that sticks out a lot to me. Since then, many a time, you stay in his house, you eat his food, don't ask to use the phone. Whenever he was there, I'd go, so I'd have to make a phone call, But I don't, well, kind of people take moments for granted, but I feel that it was that was the beginning of something, and it's never got any. It's got better. It's always been that feeling for me ever since that kind of that moment. It's like a turning point in my life, I suppose. But I couldn't believe I was there, to be honest. But it was. I do remember that. That's probably the most special moment. And then there's been so many since. Got to say.
I'm sure, Rich.
The whole time has just been moments. It really has. We've done such fantastic things together, and been some amazing places. Done things that we couldn't possibly have ever done without sort of being Rob's mate. We got to some mad stuff. We got to go to King Tut's burial chamber and had a private residence. Sort of. There was no one else there. It was just like 5 of us there going, this is a bit mad. There's also and King Tut, and we're going, this is really weird.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, we have heard him.
I've heard him talk about that actually. Yeah.
It was quite. It's a whole lifetime of moments. This has been. It's been brilliant so far.
I could probably give you 10. But one that springs to mind is that I went to Berlin or Amsterdam or something like that, and he just started performing Rudolph.
Yeah.
And the crowd didn't know what to do, and it was all like, and I'm standing there going, we're responsible for this, and there were 60,000 people going. So I suggested to the band, and I said to Chris Sharrock, you should play live drums on it. We'll bring it live. And then the next gig, they did it, and it went off. It was in Vienna, and he started playing with drum. I may have got the dates mixed up, but I'm being there. And then Chris Sharrock started playing the drums to Rudolph, and the whole thing changed because you were bringing this live energy to what was going on.
Right.
And it went off, and they did it for the rest of the tour. And I was just like, wow, And the same tour, at the first stadium gig, I'd seen Robin, and I'd got to the sound desk, and it was kind of like already I was being introduced to people. Oh, this is Kelvin, he's written this thing and produced, and I was just like, this is quite mad. And I looked, and Rob went into some number, and he saw me from the stage on the sound desk, and he went, Bass, which is what he calls me. He went. And I was just like, wow. Everyone's looking around, who's Bass? That was mind blowing. It was just like, wow, that's just right in the middle of the eye of the storm here,
We won't explain where Bass comes from, though, will we?
No.
Sorry about that. I haven't seen
you've got to keep to yourselves.
I haven't seen my brothers for a while, so it's the only chance I was going to say about that, really.
One thing, did you go to the Christmas gig
at Wembley?
Yeah. So they opened with Rudolph, which was a very proud moment for me. Personally. And when I arrived there, I was standing backstage. I was looking up. There's a huge Christmas tree on the stage. I was looking up at it like that from the backstage, and he walked up behind me and said, "Hey, up, mate, how are you?" And he said, "I've got a white shirt on and a like a brocade dinner jacket. Something he might wear maybe, but it was just." He said, "Are you going for a job interview?" I said, "Thanks a lot." And so we went into the dressing room, and he got ready for on stage. He wore that red jacket, bright red with sequins all over it. And I said, "Hang on, I thought we weren't dressing up tonight." So anyway, he went on stage, did the gig, and I saw I could see him looking over at me. And after the gig, he said, "I'm glad you wore your interview outfit. I could see you from the stage." I get that a lot with him,
Yeah, he does take the mick out of it. He knows he can do it.
Well, I've got a lot of hair, and
I know that feeling.
Yeah, well, my brother said to me, we were going over to LA. Danny and Kelvin said, "Why don't you wear a hat?" And I said, "I don't wear hats. They don't suit me. I don't." No, and he put this hat on. He went, "No, it's all right." They convinced me this hat was fine. So once I wore the hat, it was I was going to wear it because my hair was flat as it could. It just looked terrible anyway. But
Yeah.
so we went all the way over to LA, flew over, dropped in. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. Arrived at his house. He got out of bed to greet us. Came downstairs. He looked at me and went, "Got that on, have you?" I was like,
Yeah.
10 hours wearing his hat. And then he just stopped after when I got there. Like I say, there are lots of moments that are fun. I don't mind. I take the mick out of me. You know, people do, but yeah.
I don't, Rich.
No. But
I admire the Stokey sense of humour. We've got a few Stokey friends. Lucy's got some family in Stoke, so we kind of we appreciate. There's a particular brand of Stokey humour, I think.
Yeah. There is. Yeah, we're nearly Scousers.
I want to hear more stories about Rich and Roll.
Do you have a favourite Robbie song, each of you? And it doesn't have to be one that you wrote.
There's a toughie.
Can you go, Danny?
Cheers.
Sorry, Danny.
My favourite Robbie record. My favourite Robbie record is Rudolph.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that record. I like that record. I fiercely like that record after the whole Victoria Newton thing. I'm like, I know it's a good record. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. That's my choice.
Okay.
If you had to pick someone else's track, I always liked Advertising Space.
Mm-hmm.
That really appealed to me. But I think Decepticon.
Yeah, that's a good
If
one.
I had to really choose one, I'd go. That's got everything for me. For
Was that your favourite off Reality Killed the Video?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. We always pick our favourites on each show of whatever we're doing, and then we stick them on a playlist. And Decepticon was there, and I think
Rudebox was.
I think Rudebox was on there as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think we let Yatek pick that one, didn't we?
No, I think I picked
you
Rudebox.
Picked that. Yeah.
Hey.
It's there.
I like radio.
Yeah.
I do like a track. Well, I'll say one thing. We've done a lot of stuff with him that you've not yet heard.
Right, yeah.
And there's some of this stuff, I mean, as one we mentioned earlier, but I've done a lot of swing stuff. And, should he ever do another swing album, he knows and we know there's these little things sitting there. Yeah. And I know a couple of them are just, in my opinion, I mean, one he said to me, do we turn it into a, he literally said to me, we were watching the football when we were recording it. He said, do I turn it into a Christmas song, which it'll just be a track? He said, or do I wait for like the next swing album? Might be 5 years' time, I don't know when. And it'll be a single. I went, well, wait. But I'm so proud of the stuff that hasn't yet seen the light today.
Right.
But I know that's not your question, but the reason I say it is because, in a way, it's going to sound wrong. Not really a fan of all his music, which I think for me is a good thing. Because I try to approach it not from. I don't want to do Robbie Williams songs by numbers.
Yeah.
So I probably steer away from listening to it. But I do like when I come across stuff. I go, "Oh, that's good." I like that.
Yeah.
I like the Christmas songs. If you like, he did that B-side years ago with "When I'm an Out" thing on it. It's Christmas time. When I'm an Out.
Yeah,
bit of fun.
Was that called Christmas? I can't remember what that one was called. Yeah,
I can't remember.
The B-side, yeah.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot when I hear it. I like it. So that's what pop music is about for me.
Yes.
You hear it. If you can hear it at least the first time and go, actually, this is good. You know nothing about it. You know who's written it. You don't really know the lyrics. And I think he's always of that standard. So I think I give him that without knowing stuff that well.
Yeah, totally get it, Rich. And actually, just to be honest, it's a really mean question to ask you because we asked all our guests that question. We can't answer it ourselves because Robbie's got such an eclectic back catalogue and such a variety of songs that we can't probably, we said we might better narrow it down to top 10, maybe a top 20, but we haven't really written down what that is, yet. So we asked people that question and so many people are flummoxed by it because they're like, it's, you almost can't do it. So
it's like choosing between your children.
Yeah. It is.
Right, okay. Yeah.
But which you do, don't you? I don't really. Not really.
I've only got cats, so it's all right.
Yeah, I guess you're allowed to with cats.
Have you got a song that you're most proud of? I don't know if that's a bit different to what your favourite is.
You're looking at me.
I'm just joking.
Okay.
I'm giving it 5. So
Decepticons one.
Decepticon.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Very proud to be involved with that. And wow.
and we should also mention at this point Scott, because Scott was integral to that as well, I think.
Yeah.
Very, very integral to that.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I'm working with Scott, by the way.
Yeah, that whole session up at Trout Lake when we first did them demos, it was so much fun, wasn't it? That.
Yeah, we did in the same session with Soda Pop as well.
Yeah.
That's the range. Decepticon and Soda. You can't get two more different.
Massive hands. I mean, that was another one. We were backstage at Wembley, and he said, "Welcome to that track we did." And the Ida was there, and Ida's mum had a few sherbets. She was wobbling about, and I said, "Oh, I'll dig it out." And we dug it out, redid it, and it became what it became with Michael Bublé, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, have you got one, Danny? Sorry, song that you feel that you? What you said, Decepticon.
Decepticon, yeah. Decepticon is the one that I recognise us in it.
Yeah.
A lot, I hear it, and it was like it's got that Trevor Horn sheen, but the main body of it is what we did with it, with Rob's voice. It didn't change that much, did it?
No, I'm just thinking now, and I'm fond of Arizona and Email from a Vampire as well.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like you. The list keeps going on.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not really obvious, are they? They're kind of like just on the track a little bit, but they're cool tracks. They are. I can play them whatever mood I'm in. I'm just like, I'm happy we did that.
Yeah.
I like Home Again, simply because, well, I produced it obviously. It's had a few different slight versions of it. And before I got to that point when I thought I'm going to do this, and Kelvin says it sounds like Air. He said when I'd done it, the band Air, that is.
Yeah.
And
not the gas.
Not the gas. Sounds like hot air, it's really.
Moon Safari, was it Air? That was one of those.
It's the fact that, I mean, I remember writing it. I remember it's another house. My wife was in the bath. I sat down and played these chords. I thought, and when she got out of the bath, I said, "Does this sound like anything?" That's a song. And I kind of came up with the basic idea for it. And then me and Scott did it, and Kelvin and Danny got involved, and then Rob. And then it became this thing that went over there. Nothing happened with it. So I did that version of it, and I was so proud of it. I remember sitting in Universal Publishing, playing it to him, basically crying to myself. It makes me feel emotional. So I have a big thing for that track. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's great.
Thank you.
So all these unreleased songs that you've written, Rob's often talked about Under the Radar's volumes 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. Do you think some more of your stuff's going to end up on those?
I'd like to put money on it. That there's something. I'll stick my neck out here and say there's something that probably Rob will go. Remember that? We'll go. Yeah, we're going to put that on the next.
Or he'll go. Remember that, and we'll go. No, I can't remember that at all. And he'll play it to us and go. Oh yeah.
I'm going to say I hope you don't.
You want them on the main album?
Yeah, he wants
exactly.
Yeah.
I think, again, going back to Home Again, I think he should have been on an album. I believe the song was good enough to be there.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I feel a bit shortchanged, but it's not our decision.
I think, to be honest, if it does end up on Under the Radar, it's kind of a compliment.
Oh, absolutely, man.
God knows it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'd like to. I think there's so much there is out there that we've got, if you like, that inevitable that stuff will end up on there. Then we're still tasked with the job of making it sound as good as it should.
Yeah.
I wouldn't kind of. I'd feel a bit bad about handing over. And I'm sure these guys will as well. But handing over a demo.
Yeah. And
some of those things do sound a little bit like they need a little bit of work sometimes. And as I say, I never do that. Even just cut the swing tracks on and we produced them here in this little tiny cellar in a house. You know, no big band on it, but it sounds a bit like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a rod for our own back in that respect, though, because I feel it's got to be as good as if it was on a main album. You know, so
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with having high standards, though.
no.
Right.
Yeah.
I think once he says, "Can I have that on an album?" It's a lot of work. Other people going, "Yeah, stick that on there, Rob. No problem." I'm going, "Hang on, get the brass in."
And Lucy and I are both curious to know, do you have any plans to work with Rob in the future?
No, we haven't worked with Rob for a bit yet. Hopefully, it'll come back round again, and we'll have a bit more fun and do a thing. But it's been a while, hasn't it, since we've?
So the last time was the Christmas album, so it was 2000 and
19.
Yeah, it was 2019 when the album came out. We did a lot of work in the summer of 2018.
Oh, okay.
Finished the demos off at the end of that year, and then of course, I got the task to go back down in 2019 when we were down in Wiltshire to do the vocal on Soul Transmission. Yeah. So, but we've seen him since. Obviously, we've seen him at the gig.
Yeah.
You know, I asked him what he was doing next when we saw him at the Vale gig. And I said, "What are you doing next then?" Because I was kind of getting there and say, "I'll do some demos then."
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
so it's on the cards. It's not like,
of course.
Yeah, when he's already obviously that was where he mentioned this track that we called up earlier.
Yeah,
La Nina Socia,
which was from 2006.
2006. I mean, it's incredible, really. But like the minute I said, "Can you send me your copy so I can hear it?" And the minute I was like, "Oh my goodness, it's so good."
Yeah,
it's just got something. And then you think, I know why he wants to do it, because it's still got something.
It's almost Bowie-esque and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I also remember Danny playing playing the keyboard part on it, and we all stood there. I think Rob is the same. We were all stood around Danny with his keyboard doing this like Gary Newman-esque big solo bit on it, which is it's fantastic. So I think it will see the light today. So effectively, we're with him in 2006. It comes out in 2000 and whatever, but 2020 something. So never say, these things just take time.
Yes.
I say unfortunately sometimes, but
Well, and you asked Rob what he was doing in Stoke. I mean, obviously we're seeing a lot of different things that he's working on now. His portfolio is growing. He's working on lots of non-music related stuff as well. And obviously he's got the film coming out next year, The Better Man, the biopic. I'm intrigued to know, do you think that your brothers will be somehow featured in the film? I mean, you're such an important part of his life. Do you know if you're going to be in the film? Not you personally, but do you reckon you might be portrayed in the film somehow?
That'd be weird. That would be weird, wouldn't it? I have no idea.
Monkey, maybe that's Danny. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
you took the guy around Stoke, didn't you? For
the film director's assistant came to Stoke. Rob contacted me. Can you give these guys a guided tour?
Oh yeah.
So they can film some. So I did that. Yeah. So I mean, I was like, yeah, of course I can. Yeah. So I don't know whether I'll get a credit.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Probably not. No.
Stoke tour guide.
Tour guide. Yeah. Hang on, he's gone down the list.
Yeah. It was central midfield, and now he's just a tour guide.
He's on the bench. I can't get tickets for the game.
Well, I think, guys, whatever happens, you'll be in that film in some shape or form, of course, because
the music
will be in there, and we have a little theory that we hope will come true, especially with Michael Gracie. He's producing it, directing it. We wonder whether some of the more offbeat, or slightly maybe under the radar things, maybe that weren't so mainstream, might get a little bit of a sneak into the film, because if they're telling the story of his life and the commentary through, I think it would be interesting if they didn't just play all the hits. But obviously they'll be in there. We don't know anything about the creative direction, but some of those songs tell a story, and will they use those songs for the film?
It'd be interesting. Anyway, we forget because good friends with Rob, and he did it at the after the Vale gig. He emailed me He says, "Oh, so good to see you. You make me feel safe." And I was just like, "Oh, that's so nice," you know what I mean? It's just a lovely thing to say, and it was just from the heart, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the Stoke thing, you know. You know, we're all from the same place, you know.
P.S. Don't bring your brother again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but which one?
The one with the hat. Yeah.
It's not a hat. It's me lid.
I was going to tell you what's going on there.
You don't want to see it with it not in, Cal. You don't want to. It's.
So, just before we wrap up this episode, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. And also, Lucy and I would really appreciate it if you can leave us a star rating. You can do this on both Apple and Spotify podcasts. We would also love it if you could write us a short review, and you can do this on Apple. Don't forget, you can check out our episode notes for each episode and links to all tracks and videos at robbiewilliamsrewind.com. You can also email us at email@robbiewilliamsrewind.com. Please also follow and chat on our social channels. It's @RewindRobbie on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. And you can also like and follow our Facebook page, Robbie Williams Rewind. And before we return to this episode, you might also consider sending us one of your own Robbie stories for the show. Just record a short audio clip on your phone and email it to us. Please check the website for more details. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So before we finish up, I've got just one question to you. What haven't we asked you that we should have asked you in this interview? Is there anything that we should have asked? I know that's a strange question.
Oh.
No, I think you've reminded me of stuff I forgot about. So I mean,
I would say we could probably do it again because there is a lot of, you know, I mean, you fire questions as it just sparks memories and everything else comes out. But
it's funny that we spoke to Steve Power, you know, his first producer of the first 5 albums, and he said the same.
Yes.
He's like, I feel like I could do 2, 3 and 4.
Well, I mean, maybe another half. I don't know. Half of one.
So yeah, we're up for a sequel if you are.
Well,
yeah.
To be honest, and I've never done anything like this before, so I wouldn't, you know, I've no idea. But it's been fun, and I also think it sparked memories that I could talk about, which I like talking. You can probably gather that. Yeah.
I think they might have gathered that, Rich.
Yeah. It's lovely. But that's what it's all about, though. If we go on a podcast and no one talks, it's kind of difficult.
Sorry, what I think is interesting is that does it come across to you guys that we are really fond of Rob?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is an audio podcast, obviously, so people listening won't be seeing all of the gestures and the body language that we're seeing, but I can see that you're totally connected, and it's totally from the heart. And I think it's a lovely thing that you, as 3 brothers, have been so creative for such a long period. Because I can imagine, you know, I've got a brother, but I've not really worked creatively with him. But I can imagine it's not always easy, but you guys seem to you seem to have a zone which you can get into, and you're still
on our
doing
best behaviour as well, because like we put our filter up because we've got company. But like, you know,
we're gonna have a big fight after this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, I mean, one thing to say on that is, if there's a fight going to happen. Probably me and Kelvin, or Kelvin and Danny. So I'll let you work that one out. Me and Danny don't ever fall out, do we, Dan?
Not ever. I only fall out with Kelvin. It's because Kelvin's the grumpy one.
Well, you know, brothers.
I've got 3 brothers. So
Yeah.
I understand.
He's not really the grumpy one. I'm just being mean. Honest.
Well, I'll be honest. Going back to some of the questions you asked earlier, quickly, that Danny mentioned earlier, it's great when we're all together because, I mean, I hadn't seen Danny for 4 years with the COVID thing, and he lives over in Spain now.
I'm a Brexit refugee, mate. I'm not allowed to. I can't leave Spain.
Yeah, but I saw him recently. But it did make me think about times when when we were doing that Christmas album. That was the last thing when we were all together. It was ace. It was just such a great vibe. I know Rob thought that. We were coming up with stuff and presenting stuff that he loved, and we work so well together. And the end result's so much better sometimes. I think remote working's all right. Well, I'm not a big fan personally.
Well, creativity steps up a gear when we're all together.
Yeah,
we all raise a game because we're all in the room, and it's like I enjoy that. I enjoy that process of raising my game because my brothers are there.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to impress these more than anybody else in the world. You know what I mean? The reason I do what I do was to show off to my brothers. That's why I do it. You know what I mean? Because that's what they were into. I just copied them, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. But
You agree?
I agree with what you're saying. I agree that you do.
Copied you.
But one thing to say is, with none of us, and certainly not with Robbie Williams, there's no ego. There is no ego has landed in that one.
Once we're all in the room together, it's just pure fun and banter, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's really like, there's you kind of forget what you're doing sometimes. You kind of forget that you're actually making a pop record for a big song. You think you're in the studio with your mates having a laugh, and then you have to go, oh, hang on a second. We're getting paid for this.
There's no ego. That's the best thing about working with him as well, because he could walk in and go, no, lads, I don't want this. Never.
He never does. Never does.
But that open situation to be able to say something, and then as long as you can take it on the chin when someone goes, nah, it's not very good. That's fine, because you need that. You need to bring things up and drop them and pick things up and do things.
The kind of freedom we've got is he'll leave us in the studio doing a thing, and he'll come in and go, what are you up to, lads? And that's how we start the thing, because we've already done a bit and got a buzz going and getting the music going anyway, haven't we, at that point?
Yeah.
He'll walk in and go.
From the songwriting point of view, I mean, going back a little bit, in LA, it was like sketches, what's going on? And then the minute Rob would get involved, it would just go up a notch.
Yeah.
Because he got a good ear for a tune and a good ear for what he's looking for. Yeah. And then he would take it up, and then all of a sudden we'd go, oh yeah.
But what I'm saying is he gives us the freedom to just do what we do, no matter what it is, you know what I mean? We'll any style. He's not sort of going, right, we're doing this style. We'll have all sorts of sketches on the go of every style you can think of, and I like to be able to be that free in that situation.
I wasn't so sure about the death metal bit he did a while back, but then
I was never sure about that. No.
Well, Kelvin, Danny, and Rich, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an honour and a pleasure hearing all of your stories. I mean, you are so connected to Rob personally and professionally. And I, as I said earlier on in the interview, I can see a lot of your work and a lot of the way that you are has actually inspired him. And as I heard from you, sort of vice versa. So I think that's a lovely thing that we can see your influences in Rob, in other
nice
things as well. So I think that's a really special thing. And I think creatively, I don't think Rob would have done some of the things that he did without you. And obviously that connection, that camaraderie, that sort of brotherly love with Rob included as well is not something that's easily achieved. And I celebrate that. I think that's an incredible journey that you've been on with him. And as Lucy said earlier on, we want some more.
Yeah.
Well, I think also one thing without tempting fate would be There's a lot of people who come and gone.
Yeah.
We're still here.
Absolutely.
All I can say, but I'm just simply saying, we are still around. He does still come to us and say, So I feel great about that. I feel an honour to that. So
Yeah.
There's always been big gaps, haven't there? But it's always felt like an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It's always felt like there is going to be a next time that we're all together in the studio. There was we're never done.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever done with this connection.
Around the corner, I'm instinctively know sometimes, and there's some things around the corner at this moment. I don't know what it is, but I just got a feeling. So,
yeah.
Fingers crossed. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you for having us.
We're absolutely delighted that you came on. Thank you.
Yeah. Really appreciate it, guys. And maybe we'll come up with that sequel one day with you. When we.
Yeah,
there's a shout.
Yeah.
You know where to find us.
Okay, so thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Brilliant.
Cheers.
Okay, nice
Lovely
to meet
to speak
you.
to you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Robbie Williams Rewind.